I have this working theory about local government.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think they intentionally give their absolute most interesting documents the most boring titles they can possibly think of, just to keep us from reading them.
Huh. That is a very distinct possibility. It's basically a form of camouflage.
Right. I mean, look at the source material we are holding for today's deep dive. It's literally titled The Newtown Township Bills List for Ratification, February 25, 2026.
Very catchy.
If you saw that in your inbox, you would delete it without even blinking. It sounds like an absolute cure for insomnia.
It sounds incredibly dry on the surface. But if you actually open it up and look at what you're holding, it is essentially a financial x-ray of an entire living community.
That is exactly what I thought when I started scrolling through this thing. It's not just a spreadsheet of, random numbers. It's a narrative. It tells you exactly what happened in this town over the last 30 days, like what broke, who got called in to fix it, and what the priorities actually are when you strip away all the speeches and the politics.
That's the beauty of a municipal bills list. Politicians can say whatever they want in a press release, but the checkbook never lies. This document reveals the hidden costs of civilization, the things we rely on every single day but never think about until we see the actual invoice.
So our mission today is to decode that invoice for you. We are going to follow the money through Newtown Township for the month of February 2026. And I think we just have to start with the sticker price.
We do.
The total amount up for approval in this specific run.
It is a significant number. It's $325,504.61.
Over $250,000 in one single month.
Correct. And just to give that some structure for you listening, roughly $300,000 of that is going directly to vendors, people and companies providing real goods and services. There is also a strategic $25,000 transfer, which we will definitely get to later, but the bulk of this is just the operating burn rate of a modern town.
It's so much cash. And as I was going through the line items, and there are pages and pages of them, I started to see three specific storylines emerging. It's almost like a three-act play.
I like that framing. What are your three acts?
Act 1 is the lingering ghost of winter. Act 2 is what I'm calling the invisible infrastructure, the stuff that keeps us alive but goes totally unnoticed. And Act 3 is this really complex, fascinating look at how new construction, like that new Wawa everyone is talking about, actually gets paid for.
Those are definitely the three pillars of this month's spend. And frankly, we have to start with Act 1, the winter costs. Yeah. Because it illustrates the single biggest headache in municipal finance.
That's
Big time.
Yeah, let's unpack that. Because we are looking at a document dated February 25, 2026. But the money is telling the story of January.
Exactly. Municipal budgeting is a completely reactive beast. You are almost always paying today for the crisis that happened 3 or 4 weeks ago. If you look at the winter operations category in this list, the township is shelling out roughly $50,266.
50 grand. And just to be clear, that is mostly for snow and ice removal.
Almost exclusively. And remember, by late February, the snow might be completely melting. We might be seeing early spring buds. But the bank account is just now feeling the punch from those specific storms we had on January 18th and 25th.
Right. And the biggest check in this category is going to a company called Marazzo's North River Landscaping. They are getting $32,430. Now, I just have to ask, 32 grand for plowing? That seems like a massive number for just 2 main storm events.
It does seem high if you imagine like a guy with a shovel or a pickup truck, but you have to look at the details in the source material. The invoice notes specifically mention international trucks and wheel loaders.
Heavy metal.
This is industrial scale mobilization. When a town like Newtown gets hit with significant accumulation, their internal staff, the Public Works Department, gets overwhelmed immediately. They simply cannot cover every lane mile in a timely manner. So they have to have these massive contracts in place.
It's surge capacity.
Precisely. You are paying for the capability to mobilize a fleet of heavy trucks and loaders at 2 in the morning. You are paying for the operators, the fuel, the insurance, and the extreme wear and tear on that massive equipment. Marazzo's is essentially the cavalry that comes in when the regular army is bogged down.
That makes sense. I also see smaller payments here to Bert Rudy Excavating and Jacob Redding. It seems like the strategy is just call absolutely everyone who owns a plow.
It is a total all-hands-on-deck approach. In emergency management, you absolutely need redundancy. If one contractor's truck breaks down in the middle of a blizzard, you need the next one lined up ready to go. But there is another layer to this winter cost that I found really interesting. Look at the entry for RP Blair.
Oh, I saw that one. RP Blair got paid $7,507, but the line item says salt transport.
Note the exact wording there, transport. Not necessarily the purchase of the salt itself, but the logistics of moving it.
Wait, so we're paying $7,000 just to truck the salt from point A to point B?
Dealing with winter isn't just about scraping the road. It is a massive logistics operation. You have to move literal tons of sodium chloride from a regional depot to the township salt shed, then load it into the spreader trucks, then actually spread it on the roads. That $7,500 is purely for the physical movement of materials. It really highlights that safe roads are a supply chain challenge just as much as a labor challenge.
Wow. It definitely changes how I look at a perfectly clear road in January. It's not magic. It's a logistics receipt.
And it's a receipt that comes due weeks later. That $50,000 hit to the budget is happening now, regardless of whether it's sunny outside today. That is the harsh reality of the lack.
So that's the battle against the elements. But I want to pivot to Act 2, the invisible infrastructure. Because there was one line item in here that made me stop and actually reread the number.
I have a very strong feeling I know which one caught your eye.
Newtown Artesian Water Company. The bill is $23,361.76.
A very significant sum.
My first thought was, is the town hall filling an Olympic swimming pool? Or maybe they have a massive, catastrophic leak they don't know about. Because $23,000 for water in one single month seems mathematically impossible for a regular administrative building.
It would absolutely be impossible if it were for drinking water or flushing toilets. But if you look closely at the fund code on the list, Fund 006, it tells a completely different story. That is the fire hydrant fund.
Okay, but help me understand the economics here. Did the fire department use $23,000 worth of water fighting fires in January?
They almost certainly didn't. In fact, they might not have used a single drop from those hydrants all month.
So what on earth are we paying for?
You're paying for readiness. In utility economics, this is called a capacity cost. The water company has to maintain the underground pipes, the massive pumps, and the system pressure 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They have to guarantee that if a fire truck pulls up to any hydrant in the entire township and hooks up a 5-inch hose, high-pressure water comes out instantly.
So it's like a subscription fee for safety.
That is a perfect analogy. It is a subscription. You pay that $23,000 every single month so that the system is fully pressurized. Because if the pressure drops for even 10 minutes during an active fire, you lose the building. So you aren't paying for the physical water, you are paying for the ironclad guarantee that the water is there.
That is wild to think about. You walk past these yellow hydrants every day walking the dog, and you just think of them as dead metal fixtures. You don't realize they are essentially racking up a massive monthly bill just by sitting there.
It is the standby cost of safety. And sticking with utilities for a second, we have to talk about the electricity. PECO is on this list for about $12,634.
That's mostly street lighting, right?
Correct. Keeping the streets lit is another fixed cost of civilization. But look right under that at the payment to Armour & Sons.
I saw that. $8,483. The description just says traffic signal repair.
This falls into the exact same bucket as the fire hydrants. A traffic signal isn't just a convenience to keep cars moving. It's a liability shield for the town.
How so?
Think about it. If a traffic light malfunctions, say the red light burns out or the timing sensor fails, and 2 cars collide at full speed in that intersection, the township can potentially be held liable for that accident. It is a massive physical and legal safety risk. So when a signal goes down, they don't wait around. They call in specialists like Armour & Sons immediately to fix it, whatever the cost.
So it's not just calling a handyman to fix a light bulb, it's actively managing legal risk.
Exactly. So if you stack these up, the hydrants at $23,000, the streetlights at $12,000, the traffic signals at $8,000, we're looking at nearly $45,000 this month. And that is just to keep the town lit, flow capable, and fire ready. That is the baseline burn rate before a single pothole is filled or a single police officer answers a 911 call.
That really sets the stakes. It's incredibly expensive just to exist as a town.
It really is.
Now, I want to move to Act 3, because this is the part that I think confuses the most people, myself included. We see construction everywhere in our towns. We see the cranes, the orange cones. For Newtown, we know there's a new Wawa coming at Profco Pinegood. We know there's a vet hospital going up at 10 Friends Lane.
The highly visible signs of growth.
Right. And when I look at this bills list, I see actual payments related to those specific private projects. I see lawyers and engineers reviewing plans for Wawa, and my knee-jerk reaction as a taxpayer is, wait a minute, why am I paying for legal reviews for a multi-million-dollar corporate convenience store?
That is a very common, very valid question. People get furious about it. But the bills list actually gives us the answer if you know exactly where to look. You have to look at the fund code, specifically Fund '08.
Okay, looking at it now, Fund '08 is labeled escrow utilization.
Correct. We see expenses here totaling $21,610.
Yeah.
And you are right, the descriptions explicitly reference specific private projects. The Proco Pinegood Wawa, the Vet Hospital Chandler Hall.
And the money is going to firms like Kilkenny Law and Remington and Vernick. Remington and Vernick alone got about $13,600.
So Remington and Vernick are the township's consulting engineers. Their job is to look at the giant blueprints for that Wawa and absolutely tear them apart. They check the stormwater management, the grading, the traffic impact studies. They have to ensure that the new massive parking lot doesn't suddenly flood the neighbor's basement next door.
Okay, that sounds entirely necessary. We want them doing that. But why is the township writing the check to them?
Because of the escrow mechanism. When a commercial developer wants to build in Newtown, the township requires them to deposit a very large chunk of their own cash into an escrow account held securely by the town. The town then hires the independent experts like Remington and Vernick to review the plans impartially, and the town pays those experts out of that specific escrow account.
Oh, so it's just a pass-through.
It is 100% a pass-through. The money goes from the developer into the town's holding account straight to the engineer. It never touches the general fund. It never touches a single cent of your tax dollars.
That is such a crucial distinction to make because it ensures the residents aren't actively subsidizing corporate expansion.
Exactly. The developer basically pays the tuition for the township to grade their homework.
I absolutely love that analogy, grading their homework. But here is where it gets a little tricky on the list. Because right next to those escrow payments, I see the single biggest check on the entire document, Barry Isett and Associates.
Yes. They received $37,401.
And that is not escrow, is it?
No. If you look at the source document, Barry Isett is paid directly from the general fund, Fund '01.
So what is the difference? Why are we paying Barry Isett 37 grand of actual tax money?
Because Barry Isett isn't reviewing a specific new Wawa plan. Their scope of work is listed as monthly township inspections. This is the day-to-day grinding enforcement of codes for the town itself. This is your residential building permits, your safety inspections, your code compliance for existing structures. This is the unglamorous work that keeps the general housing stock of the town safe and livable.
I see. So Remington and Vernick is paid by the developers to check the big, flashy new projects. But Barry Isett is paid by us to keep the rest of the existing town standing up straight.
You've got it perfectly. It is a brilliant system of checks and balances. The private sector pays for its own oversight, and the general tax base pays for the general public welfare.
That clears up a huge misconception. I think people see the word engineering on a bill list and assume it's all coming from the same bucket.
In municipal finance, the fund code is everything. It tells you exactly whose money is actually being spent.
So we've covered the reactive costs of winter, the fixed costs of utilities, and the pass-through costs of development. Now I want to look at the actual machinery of the town itself, the assets.
This brings us to the final segment, capital investments and operations.
And the big one here is that $25,000 transfer I mentioned at the very top of the show. The document calls it an interfund transfer, which sounds very bureaucratic and vague. What is actually happening there?
It is essentially moving money from your everyday checking account over to your savings account for a very specific large purchase. In this case, they moved 25 grand from the general fund to the capital projects fund, which is Fund 30.
And who is eventually getting that money?
A company called Worth & Company. And the line item is for a total boiler replacement at the administration building.
Ah, the boiler, the unsexy hero of the winter.
It is extremely unsexy until it breaks in the middle of February and the pipes freeze. But this illustrates a key management decision in government. You don't pay for a major infrastructure replacement out of your daily operating cash flow if you can avoid it. You budget for it as a capital project. This is the township proactively reinvesting in its own long-term assets. Because if they don't spend this $25,000 now, the building eventually becomes uninhabitable.
It's the difference between buying groceries, which is a weekly operating expense, and replacing your roof, which is a massive capital expense.
Exactly. One keeps you going for the week, the other protects the house for 20 years.
But alongside that big capital spend, I want to draw attention to the smaller, grittier day-to-day maintenance costs, specifically for the police department. I was looking at the breakdown for the police fleet, and it's actually fascinating.
For fleet maintenance costs are always very revealing when you dig into them.
Right, because I see a payment to Rate Lubricants for $3,182 and another to Fred Bean's parts for $1,620.
REIT lubricants is essentially your bulk oil and fluids. Fred Beans is brake rotors and pads.
Now, $3,000 for oil and $1,600 for brakes. That might sound like pretty standard, maybe slightly expensive car maintenance to some people, but for a fleet the size of Newtown's, does that signal anything specific to you?
You have to consider how a police car is used versus how you or I drive our personal cars. A patrol vehicle operates in a severe duty environment.
How so? Like, what makes it severe?
Think about the idle time. A police car often runs for entire 12-hour shifts, constantly idling while the officer is writing reports, monitoring traffic speed on the side of the road, or securing a crime scene. That sustained idle time is absolutely brutal on a combustion engine. It breaks down the oil much faster than normal highway driving, so you need frequent, high-quality fluid changes just to keep the engines from permanently seizing up.
And the brakes.
Police driving involves sudden, aggressive acceleration and rapid, incredibly hard braking. It is high-performance driving by definition. When an officer responds to a critical incident, like a shots-fired call or a bad accident with injuries, they are pushing that heavy vehicle to its absolute mechanical limit.
So the $1,600 for brake pads isn't just about keeping the car from squeaking at a stop sign.
No, it is a critical public safety expense. If an officer slams on the brake pedal at 60 miles per hour, they need to know with 100% certainty that the heavy cruiser will stop. If the township decides to skimp on that $1,600 to save a buck, they are directly endangering the officer and the general public.
It's amazing how these seemingly mundane line items, oil filters, brake pads, salt delivery, they're actually the literal glue holding the municipal safety net together.
And it extends to the back office, too. Look at the payment to Premier Technology Solutions. $5,000 for, quote, prepaid block hours.
That sounds like IT support.
It is. And in 2026, a modern town runs entirely on data. Police records, zoning permit applications, massive financial transfers, it is all digital. If the local server crashes, the town effectively closes for business. You can't process a new house deed, an officer can't look up an active warrant. That $5,000 is the retainer that ensures when the screen goes black, a highly trained technician is there immediately to fix it.
Wow. And even the recycling needs a coordinator. I saw Ho Associates got $8,500.
Environmental compliance is incredibly complex now. The strict reporting requirements to the state level are rigorous. You hire a specialist firm like Ho because doing the reporting wrong results in state fines that would cost the taxpayers much more than $8,000. It's a purely preventive cost.
So we've taken this tour through the $325,000 spent in February, and what a month it really was.
It really was a perfect microcosm of municipal life.
Yeah.
You have the completely unexpected weather events, the fixed utility costs, and the planned long-term investments.
If I had to sum it up for you listening, it's a month defined by cleaning up the mess from January's snow, making absolutely sure the water system won't fail us in a fire, and managing the endless legal paperwork for all this new commercial development.
That is a very accurate summary.
Yep.
And looking at the top 5 pays list really reinforces that exact story.
Let's run through them just to recap where the really big money went this month. I think it helps to visualize the town's priorities. Number 1 on the list.
Barry Isett and Associates at $37,401. That represents the ongoing cost of code enforcement and keeping the town's buildings physically safe day to day.
Number 2.
Razzo's North River at $32,430. The steep price of winter emergency response and heavy equipment mobilization.
Number 3.
Worth and Company. Roughly $27,000 if you factor in the capital transfer. That is the new boiler. Reinvesting in the town's physical administrative assets.
Number 4.
PICO. About $24,000 if you combine the streetlights and all the other electric bills. That is quite simply the cost of keeping the lights on.
And number 5.
Newtown Artesian Water at $23,361. The invisible standby cost for round-the-clock fire protection.
It's just fascinating. We all pay local taxes, and usually
Yeah.
you write that check, put it in the mail, and wonder, where does this actually go? You feel like it just disappears into a bureaucratic void.
Uh-huh.
But this document answers it perfectly. It goes to the salt spread on the road, the yellow hydrant on the corner, the fresh brakes on the police cruiser, and the new boiler in the basement.
It makes the very abstract concept of government very concrete. We often complain about our local taxes, but rarely do we stop to appreciate that when we flip a switch in our house, the streetlight outside turns on. When we call 911, the police car starts reliably and stops safely. Those things don't happen by magic. They happen strictly because these specific bills get paid every 30 days.
It is the overhead cost of a functioning society.
It really is.
So I want to leave you with a thought to mull over today. We just completely broke down the township's bills list. And we saw a very distinct balance between paying for the past, like the snow removal, and investing in the future, like the boiler and the police brakes.
A delicate balance of reactive and proactive spending.
Exactly. So here's the question for you. If we looked at your personal bills list for the last month,
Hmm.
would it show a similar healthy balance? Are you investing in your own personal boilers, like your health, your education, your long-term home maintenance? Or are you just spending absolutely everything on snow removal, fixing past mistakes and putting out daily fires that could have been prevented?
That is a very provocative question. Are we actively building for the future or just paying to survive the present?
Something to think about next time you open your banking app and look at your own line items. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.